Response to Holy Bible Defenders debate review. Yeah, what's going on, party people? The place to be. I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city. Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? Happy to see everybody. Happy Friday. We made it to another end of a work week, and we need to be grateful for that. A lot of people can't say that they have, but we are here. And of course, we got to say what's up to the party people. And we got Joel in the check-in. What's going on, sir? Good to see you. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. And as always, if you have not yet already, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that it's him again. And if you like how it goes down with BK, you can show your appreciation via the PayPal link that's pinned on top of the chat. Or if you want to be a monthly supporter of BK, you can become a patron. You get an assortment of goodies to enhance your personal Bible study. And we got Adrian Jones in the check-in. We got, is it Kawhi? I know. I hope Please forgive me if I butchered your name, but thank you for being here. Definitely appreciate it. And we got some intense talent in the building. Of course, we have Mr. DTE himself, the real American, Mr. Phil Fox. What's going on, sir?
Yo, Nidosha Maragua Mirashi Mahagadash. Coming to you from the land of the Anishinaabe and the Potawatomi, now known as Southeastern Michigan. It's good to be here. Good to be hanging out with my eternal family, my brothers in the Lord, my brothers in the flesh. And it's always a pleasure to hang out with you guys and enact some violence, and especially on those with false doctrine.
Of course. And man, that's kind of a fresh shirt you got on there, Mr. Phil Fox.
Yeah, go and get it. BK Apologist T Public. Go and look it up.
Yeah, here's the link right here. You know what I mean? Shameless plug. And of course, we have the second half of the EPMD of Urban Apologetics. One wrecks, the other destroys. The great trouble of Israel himself. True ID, Adam Coleman. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, brother? Israel, bro. Dang,
That's
man.
right.
That's crazy. What's happening? Glad to be here, bro. What's happening with you?
Chilling. And listen, let's just put this out here. Adam is in a different location. He didn't purposely take his books down. Let's just put it out there, because someone's gonna clip it and be like, you know what I mean? So he still loves books.
Right. They finally got to me, bro. No, BK, you're wrong, man. What's it? Akkad and Desire, they got to me, man. They were right. There was too many books out here, bro. I had to get rid of them things, man. I'm thinking way more clearly now. I'm no longer reading
information. All that information wasn't around you to clog up your reality.
Right.
That's crazy. But speaking of the debate, there's been a lot of talk about the debate that me and Adam and Phil Fox jumped in and did his 1-2 thing as well. And again, once again, we really appreciate the love and the support from that. God be the glory to all that, and thanks to Adam for allowing me to partner with him to be a part of that amazing event. So yeah, I mean, it's been, apologetics have been up for the last month or so, with Wes Huff, Damien Jerome doing their thing, and then being able to follow up what they did, you know what I mean? So it's been pretty amazing. But of course, when you do things like this, especially when it gets to be quite big, like this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to me on the internet. I don't know about you guys, but this was huge. It was huge for me. So
I think I'm right there with you. I'm trying to think. This is a big one right here, man. It's kind of hard to I mean, it was a big win for the kingdom, I think. Like you said, I mean, just you and I, we were coming on the heels of course, Damon and Jerome knocking it out the park. Yep. Wes Huff out here doing his thing. So yeah, I'm just thankful to be a part of it, man. It's
Right,
been
absolutely.
great.
Yo,
Apologetics
did
party.
y'all see? Speaking of Wes, did you guys see that Wes was on the BPD podcast now too?
What's the BPD?
BPD. You got me.
Yeah, that's that big like I forget something Bet Davis podcast or whatever, but he's got like 2.7 million subs or something like that too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's like he's kind of a, you know, he's got a lot of different stuff too, but you know, he talks a lot of politics, he talks a lot of right wing type stuff, you know, he's kind of an agitator type, you know what I mean? Definitely speaks his mind, but yeah, he's got a massive following, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, so Wes was just on that.
Dope. Praise
That's
God.
dope. Yeah.
Hey, real talk. I mean, to be honest, we need to be praying for Wes Huff. You know, I don't know his story. I don't know like what road he's taking to get here, but I can say like I feel like when somebody's having like this big of a kingdom impact, it's tempting to say like, oh, he just kind of like came out of nowhere, like kind of one hit wonder type of a thing. But I'm fairly certain that that's not true. I don't know him personally, but I'm sure that there's been a long road to get to this point. You know, a lot of praying, a lot of seeking the Lord, that sort of thing. And we need to remember that as he engages, you know, these different worldviews and stuff like this is spiritual warfare. I mean, so we need to be keeping that brother in prayer, man.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, when you make those kind of impacts, you know, like our video, how many views our video got now? I think last time I checked it was 160, 160,000.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it right now. That sounds about right, though. Yeah.
So, but you know, so when you make that kind of an impact, I mean, obviously we didn't make as much of an impact as Wes Huff, but for me, it's huge. For me, it's huge. You know, for us, it's huge. So, but when you do make a little bit of a splash, you get people's attention, right? And people, you know, want to critique these things. And there's a gentleman by the name of Holy Bible Defender. I think he's part of
168,000, man. 168,000.
Wow, 168,000. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
He is. I think he is affiliated with GMS, and he's an individual that really enjoys coming at the UA. You know, especially Vocab Malone. You know,
who is GMS, by the way, for the uninitiated BK?
Oh, that's the Great Millstone. They're one of the earliest One West Hebrew Israelite camps, and they're not as big as they once were, but they're still around. You know, especially on the internet. And this particular individual has taken it upon himself to really come for urban apologists. A lot vocab, right? The T-shirt. There you go. You know, he's gone at vocab. He's gone on Titus 2. He's gone on Jude 3. He's gone on you know, some of the bodega ladies, which is just not which is not wise at all to do.
Yeah, but he obviously then does not know that bodega ladies, they're not just some ladies that go to church, fam. I mean, they like got like legitimate scholar level education, and they can
train assassins.
Yes, they are trained assassins. You know, they're well rounded. The bodega ladies. I mean, they have biblical scholarship, but also they have medical in their backgrounds. It's thrown in there.
They have degrees, careers. Like they're out here making it happen.
Yes.
In other words, he's about to get bodied. Is what we're saying.
Yeah, like don't
misstep one time. Misstep one time, please.
Be thankful that you only get me, Adam, and Phil.
Yeah, for real.
Bodega ladies are more behind the scenes. Right. But if they ever come for you, though, like I feel bad.
I hate to
see it. You know,
I mean, I'm gonna love to see it, but I'd hate to.
I love to see it, but I would hate to see it.
I love to see it, but I hate to see it.
It will get bloody. It will get bloody. Man. So finally, Mr. Bible Defender has finally set his sights on me and Adam. So I was wondering when he'll get to us eventually, but we're here now. And what we want to do is, you know, review his review of the debate. So, Adam, I know you took a gander at it. Can you give us some of your initial thoughts before we get into it of his review?
Yeah, I mean, just some initial thoughts, man. I think you and I, we talk about this all the time. You know, so my view is the more somebody engages in critical thinking, And the more that we grapple with truth, I believe that ultimately you're going to be pointed to Jesus one way or the other, because he's the capital T truth. And, with capital T, the T. But it's one of those things where it's like it's just a shame when we see people just a lapse in critical thinking, man. That's really what I saw, throughout the video. You know what I mean? And so it's more than just about, and I know we'll get into this, but it's more than just about like proving somebody wrong on a point, but just really pointing out the logical missteps or the missteps in like their methodology. And honestly, in this case, just flat out historical errors. I mean, we'll get into it, but I mean, the dude was really getting on us about, supposedly, glossing over history or changing historical facts. And then he was like super off base with some things that I think we'll see. So it's just, to me, like, you can't be pot calling kettle black type of situation. I mean, if you're really going to like hammer that nail about, being historically precise, then you can't be out here, just peddling historical falsehoods at the same time. So we'll see it.
Right.
We'll see it.
Phil, have you haven't watched the video, right? Or have you? No? All right, cool.
No, I haven't seen it.
So we'll get a fresh take from you. So Adam, if you can pull up the video and we'll get this thing going. Shout out to Sunday Vibes in the building. They have been evil, despicable white people for hundreds of years who have went out their way to completely destroy and brutalize the identity of Black and brown people. But those people were not in a state of being like Messiah. The person who articulated that difference so well was Frederick Douglass. This is what he says about that difference here. Between the Christianity of this land and the Christianity of Christ, I recognize the widest possible difference. So wide that to receive the one as good, pure, and holy is of necessity to reject the other as bad, corrupt, and wicked. Be the enemy of the other. I love the pure, peaceable, and impartial Christianity of Christ. I therefore hate the corrupt, slave-holding, women-whipping, cradle-plundering, partial and hypocritical Christianity of this land. Indeed, I see no reason but the most deceitful one for calling the religion of this land Christianity. Be the enemy of the other. I love the pure, peaceable, and impartial Christianity of Christ. I therefore hate the corrupt, slave-holding, women-whipping, cradle-plundering, partial and hypocritical Christianity of this land. Indeed, I see no reason but the most deceitful one for calling the religion of this land Christianity.
You have it. Adam, can you add to that?
Yeah, man. I'm gonna be I'm gonna try to be brief as I can. I ain't gonna lie to you. I try to prepare as best I can for these exchanges, and I had some things I wanted to say, but I just can't get past the opening statements by Tazariak and the brother here. Excuse me, I'm lapsing on your name right now. Hakkad, forgive me. Here's what I think is interesting. Going back to Hakkad talking about white supremacy, right? I want everybody in the audience to think about the response that Tazariak gave to the question. Where did he begin his historical analysis? He began with our enslavement, colonization, and oppression, right? Now, I don't know, I got a little bit of age on me, right? And what I can recall when I was coming up, for the most part, when we're taught about our history, typically that's where our whole history is framed around our predicament here in the Americas. It's like as if we just sprouted up on the cotton fields as slaves, like there was nothing about us before then. Our whole history revolves around slavery. That is a white supremacist tunnel vision. I find it fascinating that out of his mouth at the outset, his understanding of our history in relation to Christianity is indeed shaped by a white supremacist framework, right? The fact of the matter is our history doesn't begin with the cotton fields. Our history with Christianity doesn't begin with the cotton fields. You can't get out of the first century, all right, without seeing evidence of African Christians. I mean, we're talking about, for goodness sake, ancient Nubia,
being a Christian nation from about the 15th century to about the 1300s or so. I mean, that's a Christian nation on the continent of Africa for about 1,000 years before colonialism. We're talking about Ethiopia, being the first established Christian nation, which obviously was an African nation. We're talking about guys like Tertullian, who was an African theologian going back to the 2nd century. We're talking about legends like St. Augustine.
Answering.
All right, cool. So, Phil, you saw his little blurbs that he put in front of the screen. What do you think of some of the things that he was saying there?
I mean, it just it's the same as every other time that we engage with these guys. It's just full of category errors, misconceptions, and just flat out misunderstandings of arguments and things that we make. Adam was trying to draw the parallel, or trying to at least show, like, look, there's a larger history, and we can even give it to them. Let's say they are that they are Israelites. Let's say that, right? Let's say that they were. There's a larger history that they have, and there's a larger context to their entire existence than to what they are focusing on. And that was the point that Adam was trying to make, was that there's a much larger historical footprint that you guys could be focusing on, but yet you choose to start at this particular point in time that is absolutely recent compared to the overarching just being a Hebrew, not even to mention the whole breadth of Scripture and the time frame that encapsulates. So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of things that they're just failing to recognize. And like I said the other night on our show, BK, it's more than just there's obviously there's a lack of reading comprehension, but there's also a lack of listening skills when it comes to these guys.
Yep.
And fam, listening skills is stuff that you get in kindergarten. So maybe we need to go back to kindergarten and re-listen to Miss May and the things that she said when she said, "Okay, guys, let's go back to the carpet." So maybe it's time to go back to the carpet.
It's juice time. You ready for juice? Juice and crackers. But yeah, so let's look at a couple of things that he said. Well, what he wrote, right? He's like, but they thought they were doing God's work. Who cares what they thought?
Who cares?
It doesn't matter what they thought. Is it true or not that they were Christians? Right? And once again,
you know what's crazy?
Yeah,
go ahead. You know what's crazy is, huh?
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy is it's true. Many of them thought that they were doing God's work, and they're not the only ones, because Jesus said that in that day there's going to be many who come to him saying, like, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we cast out devils in your name? Didn't we do this? Didn't we do that? And he'd be like, look, I never knew y'all. I don't know y'all.
Right.
Who man is this? I don't know who you are.
By the way,
you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not. There's a biblical reality that there are people who believe that they're following after God who are dead wrong about that. Right. That's just a biblical reality. We're not saying anything different. Right.
And for the people in the back, more and more again, looking at the lexicon, right? Christos, right? Anointed one, Messiah, right? That's where we get Christ from, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. The suffix ity is used to form nouns from adjectives, usually to describe a state, quality, or property of the adjective. So Christianity is the state of being like Messiah. So all you got to do is look at how they behaved and then look at how the Messiah behaved, and you can see if there's any correlation between the two. And obviously, the slaveholder was not in a state of being like Messiah. Oh, but they thought they was. Who cares what they thought? It doesn't matter. Were they living? Were they walking? Were they making an honest effort to be like Messiah? And the answer to that is no. No. Now, the reason why they want to make Christianity this way, because they need Christianity to be bad, right? It's kind of like that scene in Scarface, right? You need people like me, so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's what you want. That's what you want. You want this caricature, this straw man of Christianity that you could knock down. And then here we come saying that, well, actually, that's not Christianity at all. At all. Adam, what's he saying?
He's rocking the shirt. Yeah, DTE's rocking the shirt. The Christianity.
The Christianity. Oh, he just changed it. Wow. Wait. People got to see that, Joe. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yes, we have the Christianity t-shirt, ladies and gentlemen. For sale. You can pick it up at T Public BK Apologists.
There you go. There you go. No, I mean, you're absolutely right, BK. Yeah. And here's the thing too. Another thing is like people have to stop like making like one person's experience or even everybody's experience in church is not the same. So like he had put up I guess the meme is not the right word, caption, over one part talking about how the school and the church didn't teach us about a history beyond slavery. I mean, that's not the case for me. That's not, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that wasn't the case for me. I remember being 11, 12 years old. I've told this story before, going back to AME Zion, back in Maryland under Pastor John A. Cherry, and he did a whole sermon series called Seeking the Lost, where he went from Genesis to Revelation, highlighting people who were in the scriptures who were clearly of African descent, likely dark complected. Like he went through the whole Bible. I was like 11, 12 years old. So the first time I heard about somebody being a Hebrew and being dark skinned was not from a Hebrew Israelite. It was from my Christian pastor. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not like this is nothing new. You know what I mean? When we talk about Christian history, this is stuff that I was hearing about like in my home when I was a kid. Now I may have forgotten some of it as I got older. Like that's on me. And I was reintroduced to a lot of it, even more so as an adult. But I guess I just said all that to say, like, everybody's experience is not the same in the church. You know what I mean? Like, what would he say about, people who have been in the church for decades and been on Christian history? You know what I'm saying? Like, as a matter of fact, all the stuff that we're teaching now, we're not just making it up. Like, we're getting it out of books that were written, some of them long before we came along. Yep. Some of them by scholars who are decades older than we are and been teaching it. Like, what are you going to say, to the, the people who've been on that tip? You know what I'm saying? So, they got to stop making everybody's experience like just kind of cookie cutter. I guess maybe that's what I'm trying to say. It's just not true. They just want to make us the bad guy.
The chat, yeah, right. The chat says this I don't have it, so nobody had it. Is elementary. These are facts.
Yeah.
That's a perfect way to put it. That's a perfect way to
exactly.
put it.
Yeah.
So then he turns around and says, "Turn around." Anyway, inside joke. But it's hard for Christians to believe it was us in the time of the Maccabees. What was that have to do with anything that was happening in the debate? Nothing. This is what we call, ladies and gentlemen, a red herring fallacy. An argument that distracts you from the real issue. Oh, the fire is burning the house. Oh, look, it's a fish. That's what he did. That had no bearing on what we was talking about during the debate. Oh, but you don't think we're the real Maccabees. But that's actually going to haunt him. That's going to bother him in the end. We're going to get to that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, again, like it just shows another category error because he wants to fixate and tell us like, oh, duh, the Christianity and blah, blah, blah during this time period. And then now all of a sudden he's talking about the time of the Maccabees. Like those are like thousands, almost 2,000 years between the two of those things that happened, because the time of the Maccabees is in the what Christians call the silent era, and so I mean that's like 2,000 years in between. So I mean, like, how can you just flippantly jump between these two time periods? It doesn't make sense. So I mean, obviously, because Adam, what you're saying, bro, people are poor scholars and even worse philosophers or something like that.
Yeah, most people are poor historians and even worse philosophers. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I
True.
mean,
No, that's good. That's good, man.
Yeah. So
now watch this. Look at this, Adam. Look at this. Stop using Israelites for views. Keep your name out your mouths. How about you stop being a hypocrite because you stay with our God in your mouths? We did a whole video on this. Keep that same energy.
Video. Keep the same energy.
There are thousands of Hebrew Israelite videos that talk about Christianity and Pastor Pork Chop this and dumb Christian gets schooled by the men of the Lord and Christian black women are so please stop. If you're gonna come for us for that, tell your Hebrew brothers to stop talking about us. Okay, do that.
Especially my people. Don't get me started with my people because you don't want that smoke for real.
Bro, we're literally like this video, this live we're doing right now. We're reviewing about a dude that was talking about us.
Right.
You know right. Yeah, I mean, come on. And matter of fact, he was talking about us having a conversation with Hebrew Israelites. So it wasn't like he's doing a video about us, doing a video about them. He's doing a video about us having an actual conversation with people who subscribe to Hebrew Israelism. So, like you said, you got to keep that same energy, bro. You got to keep that same energy. It's laughable.
Oh, they're cupcakes. Yeah, they're all sensitive, bro. They're all clutching their pearls now all of a sudden. It's sad. Right. It's very sad. And shout then he does, big up, Chris. And then he does this. Well, the apostles were Christians. The argument is slave Christianity is not the same as ancient Christianity. Yeah, that was our argument. that's exactly what we're arguing. We're like, what do you mean? Right. That was what we was trying to convey throughout the whole debate.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get
and you know what's interesting is that it's actually more so sad that when you really think about it, bro, like it's actually, I would even use the word miraculous. I think that it's actually miraculous. No, I'm gonna be for real. Like when you think about enslaved, like Frederick Douglass, for example, that they were able to retrieve authentic Christianity in the midst of this heinous caricature and white supremacist, oppression. Like even in the midst of that cauldron of white supremacy and hatred, they were able to draw out authentic Christianity. Like that is miraculous. And what happens is these dudes here, they gloss over that. Like they can't appreciate that people really came to know the Messiah for themselves on their own terms, know the true and living Christ. They can't appreciate that because they're wrapped up in this white supremacist focused, understanding of history or framing of history. It's sad, bro. It's sad, man.
White supremacy and blackface. That's all it is.
That's all it is.
Right.
So with that, let's get to the next clip, Mr. Coleman.
All right, cool.
Big up Michelle Turner, Bodega Ladies in the check-in. We got my man Padres Detroit in the house.
Yeah.
DWC. All right, here we go.
We have people like Saronia Mango, who shapeshifted into a panther to avert being guillotined because of the refusal to convert to Christianity under the French attack. The initial people, remember, did not concede to this. That's why we have the story of Leander, who was crucified and refused to repent and be a Christian, even at the point of crucifixion. We have people like Saronia Mango, who shapeshifted into a panther to avert being guillotined because of the refusal to convert to Christianity under the French attack. The initial people saw this madness. It's us that came after. And maybe I excuse the other people who converted and said it was at the barrel of a gun. It was a survivalist thing. It's not a survivalist thing now. Religion is using Africans for its purpose. But you find people like Njingambande of Ndongo and Matamba, Queen Njingambande. She used Catholicism for her benefit. It was not the other way around.
I want to give all the praises.
All right, so he plays this video, I think in response to Adam's argument about the early attestation of African Christianity on the continent. And what he's trying to show is that what Adam's saying is incorrect, because when Christianity came, these various African people would, push back on it, right? And the video mentions a few people. So let's look at these people and see what history says about these individuals, right? So we're going to look at the Historical Dictionary of Niger, Historical Dictionaries of Africa, 4th edition by Romain Idrissa and Samuel Dekalo. It says this. It says Saruna Mongo. This is one of the people that the video mentions, the lady that was talking. Late 19th century. Now, notice that. Late 19th century Queen of Lugu. So what Adam was talking about happened way before this. So it's already cut, right? But let's continue.
Already.
Yeah, Sarasuna is feminine for Sakri, the Husa word for king. Little is known about her life. Sovereign of a people whose identity was deeply shaped by local pantheon and its rights and beliefs, the Ana Saraunia Mongol successfully opposed the encroachments of the Islamic Empire of Sokoto and bravely confronted the new power of the French when it arrived in the era in the form of a blood-soaked mission Afrique Centrale Takad. Sarauna Mongol held off the column for much of the early months in 1899, but her capital of Lugul was finally stormed in April that year, and the queen disappeared. The exact moment and circumstances of her death are unknown. Her life was the object of a novel, Sarasunia by Abudele Marami, and a movie drawn from the novel of Mediterranean director Med Hundo. The village of Lugo remains a queenship. So it's late 19th century, whereas ancient African Christianity predates that by how many hundreds of years, right? So that's already done. We don't know much about her, but what we do know is that she fought against the Muslims. Not the Christians, the Muslims. All right. Says here, in this region, the village of Logo stands out in the meager annals of Niger's history due to the resistance against French colonial penetration in 1899. At a time when most local sultans and chiefs chose submission as a pragmatic strategy in the face of the comparatively well-armed and manned army of the French, the non-belligerent priestess chief Sarunia Mongol sent her men to fight, and when driven to flight, continued to harass the French and their missionaries through guerrilla hunting techniques from the fastness of the nearby Achaia forest that existed at the time. The reprisal was bloody, but as Morel Mateo notes, the French chose to forget the gratuitous burning, plundering, beheading, hanging, and shooting of men, women, and children that left its trace of horror from eastern Niger up to Lake Chad. Due to this historical amnesia, and bearing artistic reinvention and oral tradition for people of the region in particular, educated Nigerians interested in the history of Logo and of the Sarasunias have few documentary sources at their disposal. Matteo's thesis and more recent book, A Short Note in the History Manual of Local Primary Schools, or a sketchy account of Sarasunia's resistance in Andre Salafo's Histoire du Niger. So we don't know much, but we know that she fought against Islam and she fought against the French. This idea that she transformed into a panther and she didn't want to be we don't have that information. It's just not available.
Mr. Gather Yourselves Together, where are you at? Oh, I don't hear nothing. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, receipts and coupons. These are facts. All right. So now we're going to look at The Shelf. This is a website that's preserving Harvard's library collections. Okay. So now we're going to talk about Queen Ndongo. Okay. Nzinga fearlessly and cleverly fought for the freedom of her kingdom against the Portuguese, using armed combat when necessary and striking up an alliance with the Dutch when it was advantageous. She also converted to Christianity, though some believe she did so only for diplomatic leverage. She also made an unusual decree establishing her kingdom as a safe haven for runaway slaves seeking refuge from the European colonists. Right. So this idea that she did it for diplomatic leverage, that's conjecture. We don't really know. Some say.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
We don't know.
But the lady in the video was talking as if it was just facts on facts. No, it's conjecture. Some theorize that could be it. All right. So now, just real quick, ancient, Africans very early on accepted the gospel, right? Acts 8:26. Phil, if you could be so kind.
Acts 8, chapter 8, verses 26 through 40, ESV. Now, an angel of the Lord said to me, Philip, rise and go toward the south to the road that goes down to Jerusalem to Gaza. And this is a desert place. And he rose and went. And there was an Ethiopian eunuch, a court official of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who was in charge of all her treasure. He had come to Jerusalem to worship.
Right. So in Eliot's that's just Bible commentary, under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, the quantity of the second syllable is uncertain, but the analogy of Kaneke is in favor of it being short. The knowledge of the student of Strabo may perhaps be traced in the description. He mentions a queen of Moro in Ethiopia bearing the name of Candace. The occurrence of the same name in Pliny and Diacas indicates that it was like Pharaoh, a dynastic name or title. Eusebius states that in this time, circa AD 430, the region was still under the rule of a queen according to the custom of the country. Right? So this Ethiopian wasn't from what we now call Ethiopia. Because you remember back then, it was a Greek term meaning burnt face. Anybody that had our dark complexion would be called Ethiopian. He was working for the queen of Moro. Moro is in Nubia. So you have early attestation in scripture, in the New Testament, 1st century Nubian being a Christian. Right? Whereas that queen that we were talking about, that's 19th century. We have 1st century already here. Then, of course, we have King Azana. While it's possible that Christianity first came to Ethiopia in the 1st century, especially given to the high degree of contact with the Eastern Roman Empire through merchants trading across the Red Sea during that time, the earliest historical substantiated Christian period in Ethiopia was under the 4th century King Azana. Rufinus relates that 2 young Syrian brothers, Odysseus and Frumentius, came to Ethiopia from Tyre with their merchant uncle Marpius, who was killed and left, and the boys to be raised as slaves in the Ethiopian imperial court. So this was what Adam was talking about in a debate. So you have an early African king who became a Christian, 4th century, not 19th century, 4th century. Right. And this is from early Christianity in Africa, North Africa, the Sahara, the Sudan, Central and East Africa, by Ludwig Brandl. He says in North Africa, the inhabitants along the coast were Christians. And furthermore, the Christian message had already penetrated Numidia. In the interior of the Atlas Mountains, there existed in the 3rd century 20 bishoprics. The faith was preached to the, Gatilians and to the Mauritanians before the persecution of Emperor Decius took place. The Berber Kabbalists were also Christians. And at the time of Augustine, Christianity reached as far as the forts at the edge of the Sahara lines, which stretched across the Atlas Range. Kabylia was a Greek town in the interior of Thracia today. It's called Galawitsa, and it's situated on the Tundia River. So you have whole communities. You have Berbers who were Christians in North Africa in 3rd century.
Well, yeah, Augustine
These-
would know because his mother was a Berber.
Right.
so
Right.
he would know.
These Byzantine occupation troops gave the name the Berber tribe of the Kabylias in the North America of today. In the 4th century, the Berber town of Gukul, man, it's terrible, had many public buildings, among them several churches. It served as a place of pilgrimage, and at the end of the dynastic schism in 411, Bishop Chrysonius built a new church with 5 naves. Christian inscriptions dating from the years 599 to 655 have been found in the Roman town of Abylos in Morocco. In the 6th and 7th centuries, the Berbers formed the kingdom of the Jar, southwest of Teret, where there were 13 pyramid-like gravestones. Their dynasty was also a Christian one. Becerra, the Roman town of Viscara, seems to have its own Christian bishop until 889. So we got Berbers, 4th century, 6th century, 7th century, 8th century.
And just real quick, like, geographically, I'm no genius when it comes to geography, but once you start talking about Mauritania, you throw in terms like Mauritania, Morocco, like now you're starting to deal with like upper Western Africa. You say like northwestern Africa. Like you're not just dealing with like the eastern side of the continent. Certainly the Berbers, they moved all across that northern range, including the western side. So we're not just talking about East Africa.
Right. Okay. Which brings us, great segue, which brings us to the corpus of early Arabic sources of West African history. And the year 724 or 1324, and the king of Tokor arrived making for the noble Hijaz. His name was Abu Bakr Musa. He remained in Egypt for a year before betaking himself to the Hijaz. He had much gold with him. His is the country which put forth gold. I heard the Qadi Fa Adin, inspector of the army, say, I asked the king of Tokar, how is the description of the place where gold grows with you? He replied, it is not in that part of our land that belongs to the Muslims, but in the land which belongs to the Christians of Tokor. We dispatch collectors to take from them species of tribute due to us and obligatory upon them. These are special lands which put forth gold in this fashion. It consists of small pieces of varying sizes, some like little rings, some like carob seeds, and the like. Little rings like some carob seeds and the like. The Qadi Fa al-Din continued, I said, why don't you take this land by conquest? He replied, if we conquer them and take it, it does not put forth anything. We have done this in many ways, but seem nothing there. But when it returns to them, it puts out forth as usual. So here you have an Arabic source, not a Christian. You have an Arabic source of Christians residing in West Africa. This is during the time when Mansa Musa was around, by the way. And this is prior to the Portuguese coming to West Africa.
Yeah, that's what he's referring to as the king of Takuri. That was Mansa Musa.
Right. So
that's what he's referring to. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean.
So we're talking about 1300s, I believe. I want to say like we're talking about the 1300s at that point. Right. Now, mind you, this would have been before the Portuguese would have come to West Africa, the French, the Danish, whoever, that would have been, again, at least a century and a half, maybe before any of them would have came there. So, again, this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, right? This is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. We were talking about a white supremacist focus of history. This is what I mean. Like you just went through centuries of history that's accessible to anybody. Anybody could access, the facts that you just shared. We're not just making it up. You can look up these sources, right? But nevertheless, they keep keeping our history down to this narrow sliver of our existence here that revolving around slavery and so forth. It's a shame, man. It's a shame.
Yep. Phil, you want to add to it?
No, I mean it's just basically what echo everything Adam said. But it is a shame. I mean, because you could focus on a richer history, and but also too, and these are also symptoms and things that I deal with in my community as an Indigenous American, is that many people want to fixate on the problems that we have instead of looking for solutions as to how we can move forward as a people and coexist in these lands and not even talking about assimilation, but really looking at how we can see our differences, but also see the beauty in our differences. And that, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love, you know, other cultures, to look at other cultures and to see, because you can see the similarities, but you can also see the differences, and that's what makes it beautiful. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's just that constant fixation on this tiny portion of history when, you know, there's so much more richness in the broader scope of history, and finding, you know, nuggets of truth in that, and then also finding the beauty of things that could be your own culture.
Yep. These are facts. These are facts. So with that, let's get on to the next clip. Mr. Coleman, if you can. Shout out to Christian Nunez. Thank you for coming. Definitely appreciate you being here. Chris is funny. Some Israelite somewhere is going to say, conjecture. These Christians talk about casting spells, which is forbidden in the law.
Conjecture.
I mean, it's bad, but that's really how to be getting down, though. But I digress.
Yeah. So true.
Authors inherits who either justify slavery or stood against it. And the reason why you would have had some groups who claimed the abolitionists, who claimed to be against it, they were just in the mindset that you had a group of them that believed that if you keep putting bondage on these slaves and killing them, you're not going to have any slaves. They all wanted slaves. It's just that some wanted slaves. They went through a different route, or let me say a different dynamic, so to speak, on how they kept their slaves. So you had one group who was all about it, right, who was against so-called blacks converting. Then you had the other group who was for blacks conversion because they made them better slaves, because they was religious. And then what happened?
Oh, my bad. I think was I supposed to stop it there?
I think so. What?
Yeah, I think you had to 1321.
All right. So yeah, so this guy has a, you know, talk about revisionist history. So this guy somehow saying that, well, what the abolition was doing was, well, you know, it wasn't so much that they wanted freedom. It's like, well, you know, don't kill them because we want slaves. I'm like, huh? Because they all wanted slaves. Like the abolitionists wanted slaves.
Right.
Like, you have no idea what the abolitionist movement was. So let's tell you real quick. This is from The Slave Cause, A History of Abolition by Mencia Sinha. Abolition was a radical democratic movement that questioned the enslavement of labor. They wasn't for it. They were against it. The history of abolition is an integrated story, even though it is usually not told in that manner. Black abolitionists were integral to the broader interracial milieu of the movement. To read them out of the abolitionist movement is to profoundly miss the part they played in defining traditions of American democratic radicalism. The insidious divide between white thought and black activism that pervades some books on abolition is both racialist and inaccurate. There was no such racial division of political labor in the abolitionist movement. So you have black people in this movement. I don't think black people was championing the cause of keeping black people enslaved.
Right.
That's just not true. So not only were the abolitionist movement for the freeing of slaves, black abolitionists were an integral part of that movement. Okay. Early African-American literature, black abolitionists' intellectual response to the pseudoscience of race and debates over citizenship and immigration performed the work of political protest. The theoretical sophistication of black abolitionist thought should finally put to rest the influential yet glib view of it as imitative, marred in the structures of middle-class reform and elitism, and divorced from the plight of Southern slaves and Northern masses. Black and white abolitionists also went beyond a simple appeal to the American Republican tradition that sought out to include African Americans in its promise. They generated a powerful critique of the slave-holding republic and constructed a counter-narrative that highlighted its origins in the slave trade and slavery. This was a joint effort by both black and white to free black people. Where in the world did you get this idea that abolitionists was like, yeah, we want slaves too, just don't kill them? Like, you literally made that up.
He totally made that up. He totally made that up. And now here's the thing. The reality is, if we want to do like two things can be true. Like we can, look at the reality of what the abolitionist movement was, and we can acknowledge that not all abolitionists were themselves like perfect. I mean, there were some abolitionists. Right. It wasn't like just either or. There were some abolitionists who did not believe in the equality of the so-called races, but nevertheless, they were still against slavery. Mm-hmm. Then there were others who were what you call egalitarian when it comes to the races, and also didn't want slavery. But in no scenario was it the case where all white people, both for and against, or both abolitionists and non-abolitionists, somehow wanted slaves. Like this, like he totally made that up, which I think is funny because he spends the majority of his commentary, criticizing us for misrepresenting history, and then he goes on to misrepresent history. You see what I'm saying? So it's just it's embarrassing, man. But as you showed, the abolitionist movement, first of all, and yet here I keep going back to it, like, for him to characterize the abolitionist movement the way he did, and not, as you pointed out, acknowledging that the African and African descendant presence, in the abolitionist movement, he's actually undermining the impact of those persons. You see what I'm saying? Because the reality is that the black abolitionists at the time weren't just mimicking white abolitionists or just kind of regurgitating arguments from these more sophisticated, smarter white abolitionists. No, they were active in their own right, developing argumentation against, slavery. They were active in their own right, intellectually leveraging what they had to bring to the table against slavery. So when you just, I guess I can say, whitewash the abolitionist movement as this gentleman did, you again do a disservice to the Africans who were out there getting it in, you know what I'm saying, mm-hmm. and fighting oppression. It's just this consistent pattern, you know what I'm saying, like in this effort to fight against Christianity, at every turn they keep trampling upon our own heritage, and it's I think it's embarrassing, to be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely. Phil, you want to add on? We good?
No, I'm good.
All right. So this is the last clip. Adam, if you could be so kind.
Ooh, I think the last one I saw was the 1246 to 1321. I just played that one. Is there another one after that?
Go to 2554. 2554 to 2616. My bad.
All right. 2554. All right.
But anyway, it's just interesting to see. Let me go to Maccabees 340. Is it 348? I think I had something. Yeah, and laid open the book of the law wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. So what they're trying to do is get rid of, they're trying to clean up what they've done and for the root of us being Christians. And if they felt it was our own belief and our own rights, why did they set up all these churches? And since they have all these churches.
Was it, you said 2616?
To 2616. That was it?
Okay, yeah. Yep, that was it. Yep.
All right, cool. So the irony, right? There's a lot of irony going on here. So this man is accusing Christians, well, us, me and Adam, and Phil. He's a co-defendant as well. He's accusing us of erasing history. At the same time, he's making up history himself.
He's literally making it up.
Literally. And then he tries to use this verse to prove his point, right? And this is what he shares, right, from First Maccabees 3:48. And they laid upon the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. Somehow, he thinks that is talking about Christians erasing the true origin of Christianity. That's not what Maccabees was talking about at all. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because remember, early on, he made a claim that he is from the Maccabees, right? Cool. Because
he's reading from the Kino James version. That's why.
That's what I was looking at it. It's like Kino James, not King James, the Kino James.
But what's the context of this?
His white cousin.
What is the context behind this particular verse? It's going to be telling when you really understand what this is, and it's also going to show why this is not considered part of the canon. Okay, so here we go. This is from the early reception of the Torah by Maximilian Smits, Barbara DeToya, Christian O'Farrell, and Joshua Haberling.
AKA here, the gang.
The gang. Searching the book of law, Jewish divination in First Maccabees 3:48. Divination, understood as, quote, the attempt to foretell the future through the generation and interpretation of signs and portents, has gained new interest in recent years. Previously, with regards to Jewish divination, it was widely thought that the prime avenue to consult the divine will was prophecy. Since the text following the prophets Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi do not witness to any new prophet, it has been unclear which methods were used after their time. Now, many scholars agree that divination took different modes in the post-exilic era. One way to search the divine will was the consultation of already existing and circulating texts. Decoding the knowledge embedded in these texts was considered a way to access the divine will concerning future events. Taking into consideration the history of research concerning Maccabees 3:48, there appears to be a rising consensus that consulting a Torah scroll in a similar manner as the likeness of gods meant that both practices, i.e., Torah reading and consultation of idols, were thought to lead to a revelatory experience. While I generally agree with these observations that ascribe a divinatory function to the likeness of gods, a number of questions persist. More importantly, very little has been written on the exact methods that the Gentiles used when they consulted the likeness of their gods. So what he's saying here is that what the scholars are looking at is that verse, right, that when they look at the text like the Gentiles look at their idols, what they're saying is these Jews, these Maccabees, are using the text as if it's some sort of sacred talisman as opposed to just sacred writings. And the only issue here that he disagrees with is, well, we don't know exactly how they did it because we don't know exactly how the Gentiles did it. But there is a correlation here. Okay. This is now a paper entitled Ancient Jewish Biblicomancy, Peter van der Horst University of Utrecht, the Netherlands. This is what he says. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the word bibliomancy, etymologically from divination by means of, it's divination by books or by verses of the Bible, was first recorded in 1753. Sometimes this term is used synonymously with stichomancy, from row, line, verse, divination by lines of verse and books taken at hazard. So this is what they were doing. They were doing this thing called biblicomancy. Let me begin with the two earliest examples. Right now, it says First Maccabees 3:48, Second Maccabees 8:23. In the first passage, we read, "And they unrolled the book of the law to inquire into these matters about which the Gentiles consulted the likeness of their gods." The context is as follows. In the middle of the 60s of the second century BCE, the Seleucid king Antiochus, is that the fifth or the sixth? Always mess up the Roman numerals.
Fourth.
Yep. Tried to enforce a alienation of the Jewish cult in the Jerusalem temple. The Jewish opposition was organized by the priest Matthias and his 5 sons, later known as the Maccabees. They were confronted by a huge military power and faced fearful and overwhelming odds. The Jewish army fasted and prayed just before the beginning of the decisive battle. They consulted the book of the law in the same way in which the Gentiles, by various means of divination, try to receive a verdict from their gods about the outcome of their enterprise.
Wow.
The Jews opened the Torah scroll at random in the hope that the first line their eyes hit upon would instruct them about what God had in store for them or expected them to do. What in former times had been the role of a prophet has now taken over by the law scroll. Whatever the historicity of the story, at any rate, it's clear that in the final quarter of the 2nd century BCE, a Jewish author presented the Torah scroll as a book that could be consulted as an oracle by opening it at random. Of course, the Jews won the battle. So this is what they were doing. So the verse that this man quoted is actually showing Jewish people in the 2nd century looking at the Torah as some sort of sacred talisman.
Wow.
In a similar vein in which the Gentiles will look at their gods. One more source, because I really wanted to drill down on this. Here's another source.
Apparently, these are receipts and coupons, right?
Yeah. The Powerful God Beyond Divine Maturity by Mark Entire. When the story of the son of Matthias, Judas Maccabeus, begins in 3:1, the language becomes only slightly more overtly theological. Judas' zealous action on behalf of the law is said to turn away wrath from Israel. The description of Judas is another likely reference to the ancient hero of the wilderness, Phinehas, in Numbers 25:10-13. When questioned about the size of his army, Judas insists it is not on the size of the army that victory in battle depends, but strength comes from heaven. Finally, when the war against the forces of Antiochus goes badly, 344 reports that the congregation assembled to be ready for battle and to pray and ask for mercy and compassion. As the ceremony continues with fasting, mourning, and offerings, a telling response to divine absence appears in 348. And they open the book of the law to inquire into those matters about which the Gentiles consulted the likeness of their gods. The analogy is stunning. The text compares the Torah to a Gentile idol.
Man.
So you're part of the Maccabees, right? You're part of the Maccabees. So you're connected to a bunch of Jewish occultists.
Yeah, that's y'all, man, Joe. That's crazy.
That's you. That's what you said. You said, oh, but they don't believe that we're... No, you can have them. Yeah, you definitely them. Sure. Go join and,
they're all yours.
With your biblical Ouija board and have at it.
Right.
And have at it.
Yeah, it's so telling too, man. And I mean, I really can't add much to what you said. I mean, you just killed it, BK. But it makes a lot of sense. As you referred to earlier, I mean, this is what we call like the silent age, if you will. The kind of that intertestamental period where God's not dealing with Israel like that. You know what I'm saying? So in the absence of right relationship with God, absence of right access to Him through the prophets and so forth, we see they resorted to other means. It's no different than when they were coming out of Egypt and like, look, God ain't rocking with us, so let's make this golden calf over here. It's literally the same idolatrous practice that got them in this mess in the first place. You see what I'm saying? And so like that's just wild that this is what of all things, this is what your boy appealed to. This Maccabean, Torah talisman practice or whatever. That's crazy. It's crazy. Bibliomancy, was that the word?
Biblicomancy.
Yeah.
But what's funny? This is the verse they use. You ever see the meme of it's like an old Orthodox preach and he's like painting, and they'll put that verse on top of that, saying that you see they're whitewashing the portraits. Like that's not what that verse is talking about. It's talking about the Jews using the Hebrew Bible as a Ouija board. That's what it's talking
This
about.
is what's important. Like, this is why like scholarship is so important. Like, and hermeneutics, right? Just basic hermeneutics, right? Because if you're trying to take your experience and you're trying to take just things that you feel strongly about, and then try to find them in the scriptures, you see what I'm saying? Like, basically, you're eisegeting your experience and your convictions into the scriptures, as opposed to drawing from the scriptures what it is that God has to say and allowing that to inform your convictions and your behavior. You see what I'm saying? Like, you've got it backwards, and you have people who take that lens and they end up doing exactly what we're talking about here. They mishandle text, left, right, and center, biblical or non-biblical. Apparently, you know what I'm saying? It's just they don't know how to rightly divide, truth at the end of the day.
Yeah. First time I ever heard this quote was Brother Brian said it somewhere. I can't remember which platform, but he said, context kills false doctrine.
Yep.
And I don't know if he originated that, but that's a bar.
That's the first time I heard it. It was from also Brother Brian. Shout out to Brother Brian.
Yeah, shout out to him. So I mean, seriously, that's all BK did. I mean, this wasn't hard. Like, it's looking up just a few of these pieces and getting the larger breadth of what was being talked about. It just completely obliterated the point he was trying to make using that one singular verse. I mean,
come on, man.
I mean, quite frankly, it was light work. You know what I mean? I mean that, and it's not even like, I mean, because BK and myself, I know Brother Adam's a little more educated than we are, but me and BK we're not extravagantly educated brothers. I have some college, I have some biblical training, but I've definitely not been to seminary, and but that's all we know how to do.
I have college credits. That's it. No degree, no nothing, just credits.
Yeah. So I mean, you don't have to be a scholar to do this stuff. You don't have to be, but you do have to set aside your biases. And that takes work, because there's things that I have. I'm sure that there's things that my brother Adam, or my brother BK, my brother Adam, there's things that we would love to see that, that might rub us the wrong way. And we're like, oh man, like, I can't do this or practice that, or, or maybe I got to adjust my theology once we reread something, like there. So we have to go to the scripture and then readjust our worldview and our theology to what the scripture says based on the information that we have. And we're constantly, and here's the other thing, fam, is that we're not just reading for confirmation bias. Many of us are reading across the aisle.
Yep.
We're reading completely other theologies, even theologies that we might absolutely fervently disagree with.
Yep.
But we're reading it to try to gain, first of all, a better understanding of where they're coming from, and then reading it so that way we're not falsely identifying things in their worldview. And this is things that repeatedly happen with a lot of these brick cults, these Black religious identity cults, because all they're doing is they're reading to find bias. And once, I got it, there it is, First Maccabees, boom, got him. And then comes along BK, who does 10 minutes of cursory study and realizes, oh wait, no, cursory means quick, by the way.
Trying other words. Yeah, bro.
But yes, he does, do a quick study and realizes, oh wait, this stuff that's not even close to what he's saying. So I mean, it does take some intellectual honesty on your part, because there are things sometimes that when we come to conclusions, there were things that I had, especially when I was, doing my deep dive into the doctrine of discovery, there was preconceived understandings and things that I thought, because people had told me, even some of my elders and such, they had told me, well, this was the reason why it was there. So I had those things in my mind, and then come to see that, oh wait, it wasn't that, or it wasn't this. And so I had to shift. I had to course correct. So I mean, that's really what you have to do. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is, if you can't do that, first of all, you're not doing true scholarship, and you're being dishonest with the facts.
And speaking of course correction, Sermon of Christ says, I originated it. I made Brian a t-shirt a long time ago with that statement. He liked when I said it on a live.
Okay.
So
I see the flex SOC.
Yeah.
So like, we need to cite
SOC
correctly.
out here like,
SOC is the originator of the phrase. Big up to SOC.
Yo, shout out to SOC. No, that's dope though. And I'm not definitely
you
not.
made an excellent point, DTE, just about there definitely is, and I'm now I'm gonna use a word that I know is it just irks Hebrews like Stoic and philosophy. You know what I'm saying? There is this branch of philosophy called epistemology, which has to do with like what is knowledge and how do you obtain it, basically. And there's a branch within that branch that people refer to as virtue epistemology, and it just really boils down to there's a link between character or virtue and the ability to discern and find truth. There's a connection there. I'll use a quick example. So Albert Einstein, back in the day, the E equals MC squared guy. You're saying like he considered one of his biggest, or maybe if not the biggest, mistakes of his career is that as he was looking into the origins of the universe, he discovered that even though he wanted it to be the case that there was a steady state, the universe just was what it was, back to eternity past, his calculations were showing that no, actually everything contracts back to this one singular point, which he believed that if that were true, then the universe must have had a beginning. But he didn't want that to be the case. He didn't want it to be the case that the universe had a beginning, because there's an implication there that therefore, the universe has a creator ultimately. And so he basically added a fudge factor, if you will, into his equations, like an intentional mistake, if you will, that was discovered later on by Lemaitre and some others. And they checked him on it. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, like, what's up with that? And he went on to call that like his greatest, I guess, failure, if you will, as a physicist. I said all that to say you can be as smart as Albert Einstein, but if your heart ain't right, you know what I'm saying, you're still gonna veer away from truth, one way or the other. You cannot pursue truth consistently with parallel with that. There's this reformation of character that has to occur. Intellectual honesty goes in there. Confirmation bias is a failure of character. There's all sorts of things like you can't have one without the other. I'll end here. If you're holding on to what BK just so eloquently put, like this hermeneutic of revenge that much of Hebrewism is based upon, if your core like the linchpin of what it is that you are about is revenge, I don't care if facts on facts can be presented to you, you're still not going to be able to ascertain and consistently encounter truth because your heart ain't right. You need Jesus. That's it's not about like, this is not a purely intellectual battle. Like, you need a touch of the Holy Spirit, man, to be regenerated and reformed on the inside, so that you can have the scales fall from your eyes and then be able to see. So I think that what we have to do is we have to realize, I'll just end it with the scripture here. It talks about in the word how Satan blinds the minds of unbelievers, lest they should see the light of the glorious gospel. You have to, I would encourage any Hebrews, like, if you take issue with what we're saying, you know what? Just go to God. Really lay your heart before the Lord and ask him to strip away everything that's preventing you from seeing the truth. And then watch what happens. Amen. That's my challenge to every Hebrew Israelite watching right now live, or who watches this video later. Go before God and lay your heart before him. Ask him to remove anything that's preventing you from seeing the truth. If you're really confident in what you believe, you shouldn't have any problem doing that, right? If you're really that confident, I challenge you to do so.
Amen. So that's it, guys. That's the end of the video. guess to summarize, Mr. Bible Defender needs to listen better. He needs to stop making up history and read things in proper context. And humble yourself, and as per Adam saying, speak to the Most High God to give you the insight and the wisdom you need to see things clearly. Right? And listen, we would love for you to be our brother in Christ. You know,
Absolutely.
we do this as a correction, but we also do it to help you see things clearer so that one day you can be a Christian as well. We want you to be our brother. Just like every other Hebrew that we come across, that's always the end game for us. It's not to win the battle and show how amazingly intellectual we are. No. We're trying to clear the table for you so that you can see the gospel clearly. That's the agenda that we have.
I'd gladly take that L for you to come to Christ all day.
100%.
So with that, guys, final thoughts. Mr. Phil Fox.
Back to elementary school we go for some of us. Adam, he made an amazing point, because I've always seen intellectual honesty as more of a falling under the laziness schema. I never thought of it as a dishonesty, or being in that realm of being dishonest, or even though it's in there, but I've always seen it more of or a confirmation bias, excuse me, being in that realm. So yeah, so it just, some of these things, it just like anything else, it takes practice, and it's a discipline. And it's difficult, because none of this stuff is easy. It takes hours to prepare, and because we're battling these untruths, it's easy to spout a lie, because the lies don't require facts. So rebutting this stuff takes hours, and it takes effort, it takes work. And so there's more honor in truth than there is in spreading a lie. So that's all I can say about this particular episode.
Amen. Adam Coleman.
Yeah, no, I don't really have a whole lot to add, man. I would just say that, just like I want to say it was King Ahab who inquired of lying prophets, because he wanted to do what he wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think he was the only king in Israel to do that. But I think that we have to, like, are you be honest with yourself. Be as honest with yourself as you can. Are you inquiring of illegitimate, ungodly sources, because ultimately your motivations are not really to seek after the Father? You know what I mean? You're not really seeking Christ for real. Right. Just be real. Like, don't deceive yourself. Just keep it funky. I'm gonna end out with this, man. Shout out again to servant of Christ. As he pointed out in the chat, James 1:5, man. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. Okay.
Beautiful.
Ask God for wisdom. Ask God for wisdom when you study. Ask God for wisdom when you read the Bible or whatever else. Ask God for wisdom. Okay. Ask him for wisdom and see how he shows up. See how he shows up. Just leave it there.
And with that, Mr. Phil Fox, True ID and BK signing off. Peace.